Hi, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. And this one we're going to be talking about Java loops, looping in Java. There are several ways we can loop in Java, but essentially, well, first of all, what is looping? Looping is in Java or any programming language really, you want to have a way of executing an instruction or a statement, a command, or a set of statements for a number of times, or let's say for 10 times, okay? Or for until a condition is true or false. For instance, let's say that you're waiting for a file that is being downloaded at the moment to be fully downloaded, to have fully been downloaded. So the condition is downloaded will be false until the file has been fully downloaded. Then that condition will be true. And then you can break out of that loop, for instance. Yeah, so there are several ways you can do loops in Java. And, we can start with for loops. So I have my notes here on the side. I've just copied this. Now, I'm just going to execute this for now. If you're not familiar, it's okay. We're going to break it down piece by piece. I'm going to just get my tablet ready. So you see that on the screen, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines that have been printed. So first line says iteration 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Why doesn't it say 5? I mean, I see the 0 here, but it doesn't say 5. Well, we're going to get to this now. So I'm actually going to attempt and copy this and paste it here. Awesome. And hopefully the screen sharing will work. Pray to the gods of AirPlay. Okay, perfect. Right. So this part of the program we're familiar with already based off the previous videos. This would be the new part that we're going to focus on. And what we're seeing here is a for statement. A for statement is indicative of some sort of looping that's going to happen between those two braces, the body of the for loop. Notice that sometimes the for loop technically doesn't require a body, so it would just loop. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Just know that if there is no braces after the for loop, the for statement, it just means that the very next line after it is the body of the for loop and is the statement that is being looped, is being repeated. But now, since we have those two braces, then everything in between is being repeated. Well, potentially being repeated. And we're going to get to why in a bit. Okay, so we have 3 parts here that I want you to pay attention to. You see those semicolon dividers, okay? Those are not arbitrary. They're put there for a reason. They are dividing, they're dividing those 3 sections. So when a for loop is, when your program is being executed and you get to the for loop, the first thing that is being looked at is this part. That is, I feel like I created a mess. So let me start over. Right. So the first part is being looked at is this part. That's number one. And this part really says, please define a new variable of type int of name I. And that variable is to live in this scope. So this is where I is defined. All right, good so far? So once we exit this scope, once we get to the other things, like if there is a system.out.print, I will not exist. I'm not actually so sure about that statement. Yeah. Yeah. So as you can see here, so I is being defined, but is inaccessible here, which means that, but as you can see, it's accessible here. And if you use the middle button on the mouse, it will take you, so if you press on it, it'll take you to where it's being defined, which is here. Okay, let's go back to the thing. What was I saying? Yeah, so this variable is being defined within this scope and this scope only. A scope, by the way, is the braces, the two braces. So this would be a scope, and this would be a scope. So this would be the main method scope. This would be the main class scope, and this would be the for scope. Okay. I've made a mess again. Can I use a bigger one? All right. So this is going to be executed. The first thing is going to be executed is this portion of the for loop. So we've defined a variable I, and we've given it the value 0. So right now sorry. This is a disaster. I equals 0. All right, I gotta change color now. Cool. The second part that is being looked at is this part. Now this part has an expression, a logical expression, and the logical expression is I less than 5? So I currently is 0. I need to change color. I is currently 0. Is 0 less than 5? The answer is yes. So this is true for now. And so this part we're not going to look at for now, the I++. Now, this is an increment expression. It's the equivalent of I equals I plus 1. So once this condition is true, then that's an invitation for us to execute whatever within the scope of the for loop. If this came out as false, we're not going to execute anything in here in the scope of the for. So since this is true, we're going to go in and we're going to execute system.out.println iteration. This is string concatenation, so we're concatenating the string, the iteration space, and then the plus here is just saying whatever the value of this I is, convert it to a string, and then basically just glue it with this portion and then print it to the screen. That's pretty much what's going on. So what is the current value of I? Well, I know the current value of I at the moment is 0. So I'm going to end up with iteration 0. That's what I'm going to end up with, and that's supposed to be printed to the screen, as we see here. Now, what's going to happen next? The second thing that's going to happen is once we hit the end of the 4, we're going to see the third section come into action. And that's third section of the 4 loop definition is the I++. We mentioned that means I equals I plus 1. Currently, I is 0, so plus 1, that's 1. So the new value of I is 1. So i's value has become now 1. What's going to happen? We're going to, after we do the increment, or we call it the updates. Could be increment, it could be decrement, it could be nothing, as we will see in future examples. We're going to reevaluate the condition here. Now this part is dead. This part is just at the beginning of the for loop. We're not going to visit it anymore. This part is dead. Now, we finished the we finished the first iteration. We've updated we've done the update here, which so happens to be the increment of the iteration variable I that we've created at the beginning here. Then we're going to look at the condition here. The condition, if it's true, we're going to continue looping. If it's not true, we're going to break out of the loop. So the condition here is 1 less than 5? The answer is yes. Since it's yes, we're going to go into the loop again, and then iteration plus 1 this time. And that's why you see iteration 1 here. And now, I guess you get the message now. So we're going to keep going until we get to 4. Is 4 less than 5? Yes. And then we're going to go in and we're going to say iteration plus 4. And as you can see, iteration is being printed with 4. Now, what's going to happen next is we're going to finish executing the last statement, iteration 4, and then we're going to come here and say I equals I plus 1, and I currently is 4 plus 1 is 5. So the new value of I will be 5, and then we're going to ask, is 5 less than 5? And the answer will be no. Since the answer is no, we're going to break out of the loop, and we're going to stop printing anything. This has been super chaotic. I hope that it was clear. I hope. So that's basically the idea behind looping. And that explains why we see 5 here, but we didn't get iteration 5. It's because once we've finished the first iteration, this condition becomes false, and then we break out of the loop. Now, a nice way of looking at this is to use the debugger. So I'm going to debug now. It's frozen. It's working. Right. So when you debug, you can put breakpoints, which will pause the execution of your program until you're ready to continue the execution. And the nice thing about that is that you can inspect the state of the program, the state of the memory. And currently, the only variable that we have within this scope, which is the main function, okay, is the variable args. Don't have to worry about that variable. So if I press F8, that's gonna step over. Step over means it will execute a statement. So I'm gonna step over, and notice what happened here. A new variable is being created called I, and the value of I is 0, just like we saw here. The first value was 0. Right, so if I do another F8, you see what happened here. Iteration 0 was printed because the system.out, the print line, executed and the value of I was 0. And notice that it went back up to the definition of the for, like the first line of the for loop. And now it's saying to me here, I is still 0. Notice what's going to happen once I hit F8 again. I's value increased to 1. Why? Thanks to the I++. Here, they updated the condition, they updated the counter here, or the iteration. And then the I less than 5 was evaluated, and it was still true, so we went back in, but now the value of I is 1. So F8, that's been executed, and you can see the new value being printed. I's value is 1. If I click again, I's value is 2. Iteration plus 2 will print iteration 2, 3, 4. And now it says the value is 4. However, if I hit F8, it went out of the loop. Why? Because that's it. 5 is not less than 5. So there's no reason for us to remain in the loop. And notice here, the variable I has disappeared. It's no longer in memory. It's being destroyed as we left the scope of the for loop. So I think I can leave it. I can leave it at that for now. And in the next video, we're going to look at more comprehensive examples, and we're going to do we're going to learn about the other type of looping in Java called the while loop. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.